so this is an update. My name's Elizabeth Walker, host and producer of the Dear Business Coach podcast and Walker Consulting Workshops. As you know, the Exposing Excellence series with Roanoke Valley leaders is underway and almost finished. Today I'm recording this on September 13th, Friday the 13th. Happy 13th. And so I wanted to let you know about what's happening with Exposing Excellence. It was a summer series every other week released on the Dear Business Coach podcast. Well, we had an excellent response and had to increase the episodes. And so during the month of September, you'll notice that the Exposing Excellence with Roanoke Valley leaders is being released on Sundays as bonus features, as bonus episodes. So you'll actually see these episodes on Sundays during the month of September, on top of the regular Wednesday releases. So that's Exposing Excellence with Roanoke Valley leaders. Now, if you are an email subscriber, you already know that you can see all of the episodes, watch the full episodes on video, as well as get access to LinkedIn live audio events, as well as live in-person events. So the email is coming to you every week. There's 2 emails a week right now for episodes and events, and you can subscribe to that at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. You should see it pop up. If you don't, there's a subscribe to email button right there. So make sure you're subscribed to email, connect, and follow with me on LinkedIn so you can also see those LinkedIn audio events that way. My name's Elizabeth Walker, host and producer of the Dear Business Coach podcast. Tune in to Exposing Excellence with Roanoke Valley Leaders, a special summer series released on the Dear Business Coach podcast. Join your producer and host, me, Elizabeth Walker, and I sit down with a remarkable Roanoke Valley leader to uncover insights, successes, and strategies for achieving excellence in their field and yours. Don't miss out on these opportunities to learn from local leaders, elevate your own leadership style. Subscribe now and start exposing excellence with us.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I will say, Gene, is welcome to the Dear Business Coach podcast. Thank you so much for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? Oh, I see you have transparent leadership there by my friend Sherry Wineset there in the background.
That's right. You know what? That now that we're talking, the view that I see of myself is small, so I hope it's in the frame. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. Yeah. So when I usually start an interview, I usually have a profile to read with you and then ask you to introduce yourself as well. And today I will actually say something a little different. My introduction with you is, you were one of my first email contacts when I started this series, Exposing Excellence with Roanoke Valley Leaders, as part of the podcast. And this is our first opportunity to talk. And the reason why I think that we're talking today actually is because I have met some really cool friends like Sherry Wineset through producing this series who said, you have to talk to Gene. So that's my introduction is I've been told a number of times, you've got to talk to Gene. So, but I do want to read this introduction really quickly. I have your profile here. Gene Marrano, editor, Valley Business Front Magazine, anchor, senior reporter of WFIR, AP and Virginia Broadcasters Award winner, freelance writer, former editor of several weekly newspapers, former host of several TV interview shows, including Business Matters on Blue Ridge PBS and The Interview with Gene Marrano on Cox Cable. Long career in manufacturing, before that national sales manager for several companies in New York and Virginia, board member for New Community Theater in downtown Roanoke, community theater actor, runner, and ran 20 plus marathons and ultra marathons. So I hope that I get to the important parts in our time together this morning, but tell me a little bit, Gene, how do you introduce yourself?
I just typically tell people I'm a journalist, I've been in journalism really since I moved down to Roanoke, although I did write a few trade magazine articles when I was in the manufacturing field before that. But mainly I just tell people that I'm a journalist, radio and print journalist. I get around.
Well,
A lot of people, a lot of people know me. You know, I've been part time in radio journalism since '97. I've only really been full time in the business for the past 10 years. But I was with public radio for 10 years. Did a Sunday morning shift, did some news, uh, did an arts and culture weekly show for 8 years. So yeah, I've been around. Edited a couple weekly newspapers, the Vinton Messenger, and another paper that's folded. I helped get the Roanoke Star Sentinel paper off the ground as a print version. That's gone all digital now, but I helped get that off the ground too about 15 years ago, something like that.
so I have to ask you, what is it about journalists? See, I think that you're on Exposing Excellence with Roanoke Valley Leaders today because I find the role of editor and journalist to be one of the most important roles of society. And as I spoke also with Liz Long at the Roanoker, and she's
Mm-hmm.
not just an editor either, right? So you have a lot of personal um in impact right into what gets published, and I wonder if that's something that you knew when you started as a journalist.
You know what? Well, when you start, you know, when you're at the bottom of the pecking order, or nobody knows you, or you know you're new, uh, maybe you don't realize how much impact you can have. Also, when you get into the business, you also people start coming to you with stories, which is kind of nice. People start coming to you, and yeah, you can have an impact. And we don't do a whole lot of deep dive investigative journalism here. We don't at the radio station. We just don't have the staff for it. But I like to highlight community issues, people you may not know about. Um, I'm I have a long background in manufacturing. I was a national sales manager, traveled the country extensively for a while. So I'm really tuned into to business. So I like highlighting new businesses. I like going to ribbon cuttings, talking to people about their plan, that type of thing. So you can have an impact, and it's great. Sometimes, like 15 years later, someone will come up to me and they'll remember that I interviewed them or something, and it was like a really cool thing for them. I might not even remember them, quite frankly, but I'm good at faking it. But so that's kind of cool when you can have that type of reaction. And you know, for some people, it's probably some of the best exposure they're going to get. You know, we're not here to do commercials for them, but I just think, you know, everyday life. I mean, there's so much going on now with politics and everything else that sometimes the best stories are just everyday life stories. You know, people like hearing what their neighbors are doing, what a nonprofit is doing, how a new business is doing. Somebody's written a book, that type of thing. So, you know, it's so there's a and the thing about journalism too is, especially for people like me who are probably undiagnosed ADD, but you can flit around. Like you know, in a single day, I can do a story on the arts, a story on housing. I can do an art story. I can do a sports story. So if you like, if you're sort of like a polymath or something, where you just like to do a lot of different things, journalism is a good place to do it.
Okay, so then maybe I should ask you now then, if folks who are in, let's say, college right now and thinking about the role of journalism and how to get started in a career, would you offer some insight as far as what the landscape is like right now? Or
Hmm.
is this, and or is journalism is it always been a tough business, right? Independent versus big news, and where do you find your footing?
Well, the thing of it is, right now, traditional journalism, whether it's radio or print, is um, is really on the decline, quite frankly, in its current form. A lot of stuff's online. A lot of people, especially younger people, they don't even get their news from, you know, traditional websites or TV or newspapers. I mean, I haven't read a print newspaper in a long time. So there's still a place for it. Um, it's not, I would say, unless you're in some of the bigger markets, it's not the most lucrative career. It's the type of thing I think you do if you have a passion for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I juggle a couple different things to make it work. You know, and the thing of it is, there's a lot of people that in the TV business especially, will pass through Roanoke. They'll be for 2 years. Maybe some outstanding young reporter for SLS or DBJ, and we have an agreement with DBJ. We can use some of their audio, and there's been a few people that have come through here that are really good, like Isabella Don, who just left, went to Kansas City. That's a big jump to go from Roanoke to Kansas City, market wise, and so she sort of skipped that like Greensboro step or something in between. So that's someone who obviously made a big impression on people, that she's got major city ability. And but so I would say, don't go into it if you to me, if you're a writer, you like to write, you like current events, and coming right out of school making 100 grand a year is not your be all and end all. Then journalism is a good career. There's always going to be a place for it, and I think things kind of go in cycles. It may come back into vogue. I don't think print's going to come back, but again, it's something really to think about. And a lot of people, Elizabeth, that go into this business, especially when they're young, they wind up going into other fields of communication. They go to be the PIO for a police department or a fire department. They go to work for the city. They go to work for a big company doing communication. So it's also a good starting point for people. And quite frankly, most of the people, or a lot of the people in this area that are spokespeople that we deal with for the city, county, Botetourt, Virginia Tech's got a bunch of people that were, they've got a bunch of people from the wrong time. So there's a bunch of print people there. A lot of them started out doing journalism on this level. So it's a good background. And I think the people that stay with it are people that say, you know what, I just like this. I like meeting new people. I like learning more. I like being connected to people. It's a good way to stay connected. I know a lot of people, quite frankly, after 20 something years, that really, quite frankly, and this is not a boast, but I can very, very rarely go out anywhere without running into one person that I know or that I've interviewed, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question, but it's, if you have a passion for it, I mean, I'm old. I grew up watching the Watergate hearings as a kid during the summer. I spent my summer watching, Senator Sam Ervin from North Carolina and John Dean on the stand. So I've always been kind of wired like that. I read 2 newspapers every day. We lived in New York, so I read Newsday and the Daily News. So I just grew up with newspapers, and I've always been like that. So it's a good place to start. I think if you go to school for journalism, most of the time you go into school for communications, and you can branch off into journalism. But if you're in the communications field, it gives you a little bit of a wider berth, more variety for you to look at.
Are you an executive or team leader in the Roanoke Valley, Virginia area? Hi, my name's Elizabeth Walker. I'm inviting you to a special one-day-only event at the downtown Jefferson Center here in Roanoke, Virginia, a leadership and comedy experience called The Power of Laughter Masterclass with Clayton Fletcher, author and stand-up comedian. Visit the QR code in the ad and visit walkerconsultingworkshops.com. Early bird pricing now through September 30th. Don't miss out. Right. Well, so let's see. That gets me thinking too. I'm listening to you, so I'm looking at my notes and trying to keep myself on track here, because I want to ask you about what makes good journalism. Oh, I know. Looking at list my notes while you're talking here, Gene, you said it's a good starting point, and that a lot of the folks in this area who maybe started or studied journalism or started in journalism go into pathways into with the city, or spokespeople that are with the city, for example. And then you mentioned Virginia Tech. So I think that sounds actually fantastic, right? If you have a good journalism education, or at least the principles of journalism, that sounds like a fantastic place for people to learn before they go into public into covering public policy. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. it just, for one thing, people that come out of this business and go to work for a government agency or even a private company, they're more media savvy. So they know that people are on deadlines. Hey, I need to talk to someone this morning about something. So they're very, that's the one thing, like Chuck Lionberger, Roanoke County Public Schools, their spokesperson, and Chuck was at Channel 10. So he went to the school system about 20 years ago, and Chuck's really good. He talks in sound bites too when we interview him, which is great. And but he's very savvy about connecting us with people on a timely basis. So yeah, I think that media background, if you were going, even if you become like a, you know, you run a campaign or something, there's a lot of campaign people that run campaigns who, or even marketing people that had some background in the media, you know, some background with media, even like, even though he wasn't on the air, I don't think, like Bruce Bryan with 5 Points Creative came out of WSLS TV. He was the sales manager there, but he was very much in you know, close proximity to the people that were on the air. And so you kind of get, yeah, it's a good background. And again, you know, you get wired into, you know, players in the government, players in economic development, players in not, you know, nonprofit players, that type of thing. So it helps wire you in. And if they see you have integrity, they really like that. So that's one thing. And I just try to get things accurate and tell the truth and not try to, you know, slant what I'm doing. But I have a lot of people, what people have told me that they like what I do. They think I have integrity when I do it. And that's, in this business, that's one of the best things you can hear, because quite frankly, when you look at surveys, media people are right down at the bottom with used car salesmen sometimes right now, as far as what people think about them.
Wow. Well, that's actually a fantastic point. And the word integrity there wasn't a word that I was going to use, as you say, for my own soundbite, right? Is what makes integrity, or can you still have integrity, or something like that. But I did want to sort of pick your brain a little bit about, along these same lines, the study of journalism, right? What makes a good practice, right? What gets us set up for being a person who is a good a steward of the media, right? So we're on a podcast today, and I tell a lot of people in my LinkedIn lives that podcasting is a medium that a lot of news stations or radio stations are looking to, how to leverage the podcast audience. And so, you know, it's a different kind of access. However, right, it's people who like audio, people who want to dive into deeper issues sometimes. And even like you said, people enjoy talking to you. You've had the experience that not only do you have integrity, but you also can highlight a business ribbon cutting, and it can be about fun, and we can cover important things without it being too serious too, right? So you have the capture of audience members who can jump in for daily news and sometimes dive into something really deep. And that is an art form and a study, and that does take integrity. And so in your experience, you know, are there some places where someone like myself is an independent producer, or maybe a young student who is interested in the principles and the foundations of sound journalism? You know, what can I learn from you as far as building best practices for how to approach a story, how to get the facts, how to develop showing integrity?
Right.
That was a mouthful. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I trust that.
Well, I know one thing that helps, like we've had a lot of interns come through here. We usually every summer we host an intern, and sometimes we have them during the year. And I've worked with a lot of interns over the year. Yeah, what helps as far as if you're going to interview somebody, and this sounds pretty simplistic, but is just having some background on them, doing a little bit of research before you talk to somebody. And what you want, like the magic words you want to hear is, "Oh, that's a good question." You want to hear that, but just having some background. And one thing, and not to sound like an old fogey, but there's just so many younger people today that excuse me, don't really seem like they're they keep very wired into what's going on, and you don't have to be fanatic about it, but you should know, if you're going to be in this business and you're going to be in Roanoke, you should know what city council is all about, the board of supervisors, and how they're dealing with things like housing. So just bring something to the table. Do a tiny bit of research. That's what the Google machine is for. Put together some questions that are thoughtful, that are going to open up your subject to give you better answers, and just kind of treat them fairly. Some people, especially people that are not used to being interviewed, they're kind of wary, and they see all this gotcha stuff on TV. But at this level, there's just not a lot of that. It helps if you be prepared, have some background on what you're doing, and just approach the subject fairly. It's really not that hard. And but that's a good start. It's a good way to build a relationship with somebody, so that when they see you come back, or they see, hey, can you get on the phone with me today, or can I meet with you? They're not leery about that. You've already started building a good relationship, and you could do that, from day one when you start, this type of job, or any job.
That's a really good point. That is a really excellent point. You can, speaking of foundations, building relationships with people. Can you think of a time? I know that we're getting close to time, so I'm watching the clock. Can you think of somebody maybe that you looked up to when you were forming the foundation of your journalism? When journalism became important to you, were there some folks that you worked with that you looked up to?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, a lot of it was just by osmosis. Like, when I was at public radio, like I worked with Connie Stevens, who was in the business for a long time. And now, ironically, Connie's she worked for Seven, then she worked for public radio. And ironically, she's up in Richmond now with as a spokesperson, I think, I think it's the Southern Poverty Law Center, or environmental, I forget what it is, but which is kind of a path a lot of people take. She was one of them. Rick Mattioni, who was the news director there, he was another good one to learn from. And then way back here, like I said, I was part-time here at WFIR for a number of years, and then I sort of just migrated to public radio. Then I came back, and I've been full-time here now for about 10 years. Sort of like my third career.
Today, we want to tell you about a friend of the Dear Business Coach podcast. If you're thinking about renovating your home or business, check out our friends at Active Wall. Located in Martinsville, Virginia, Active Wall produces high-quality moving, window, wall, and door systems that open up your space. Their innovative product lines include folding units, pivot doors, and gas strut windows that are custom designed to add style, function, and wow factor to residential and commercial settings. Energy efficient, thermally broken aluminum and proprietary hardware are at the core of Active Wall's design process. Their skilled team collaborates closely with architects, designers, and homeowners across the nation to ensure that the aesthetic and functional needs of the end customer are met. The products are made in the USA and they ship nationwide. Active Wall has a showroom and design center in Martinsville that is open by appointment, so you can see and feel the quality of their craftsmanship. As a special for listeners of the Dear Business Coach podcast, you can use the promotional code Elizabeth for 5% off your order. Visit activewall.com/Elizabeth for more information and a free quote. Thank you to Active Wall of Martinsville, Virginia, for being a friend of the Dear Business Coach podcast. Visit activewall.com/Elizabeth to discover how Active Wall can open up your space.
And like, Jim Wilson, who was my first news director here, and then he went to write for CNN. He was another one. And then some of the reporters that were around, some of the, like Roger Fowler was someone. And, but yeah, just kind of like by osmosis, I see people out in the field, like Joe DeShiel with Channel 7, senior reporter for them. He's been around forever. I see Joe out in the field a lot. He's a good one to, listen to the way he sets up a question, that type of thing. And it's, I like when we're sort of on the same wavelength about a lot of things. So, just listen and learn. Don't think, there's always something to learn. always something. I'm still learning, how to put things together. I do like a 3-minute culture calendar every week. And so
Hmm.
that's sort of giving me more of a deep dive into the art. So I'm talking to, David Wiley and Ginger Poole and Cindy Peterson from the Taubman community theater directors, that type of thing. And so I'm just opening those paths of communication, especially like nonprofits. If you show an interest in, for a legitimate story, they love it when they get some attention because most of them don't have any kind of a marketing budget. So they like when they're getting attention for a legitimate news story, but they like when you come back to them because a lot of people don't do that. I think I was wired into that because when I was at public radio, for 8 years, I did a show called Studio Virginia, which was a weekly arts and culture show. And everybody from book authors to painters to, you know, historians, and it was a lot of fun. And the culture
That's
calendar
right.
the culture calendar is sort of a mini version of that here.
Okay, so as I said before we started recording, I could take up a lot of your time. Before I have to let you go, I want to make sure that you tell me about the community theater.
Okay. Yeah, it's based at Community High School, which is right back at Pinnacle Bank on Campbell Southeast, 302 Campbell Southeast, near the corner of Williamson and Campbell. And basically, there's not a lot of venues for community theater. There's show timers, and then out in Fincastle, there is Attic Productions, where I'm actually in the cast of Footloose. This is our last week in the musical. So a bunch of people, it actually started before I came on board, but they said, let's start a theater. The formal name is Exit Pursued by a Bear, which is actually a Shakespeare stage direction from Winter's Tale. And that was very different from a lot of Shakespeare's stage directions, which were very short. So anyway, it's the Bear Theater for short, the Bear Theater. We opened, and I got city council to let us, I got Stephanie Moon Reynolds from city council come to cut the ribbon. They lent us their big scissors. Beartheater.com. Our second play is Arsenic and Old Lace, which is going to be up in October. That's an old chestnut. Cary Grant was in the movie. And I'll tell you what, getting a nonprofit off the ground like that, it's a lot of work. Getting the 501(c), which our president, Angela McNeil, did a lot of, but I've been helping them a lot with marketing. And again, I have a long background in manufacturing too. And I was a national sales manager. I did a lot for small companies, did a lot of traveling, and you wore a lot of hats. I got involved with everything from video production to brochures to trade show graphics to working with reps. And so I'm bringing some of that. But it's kind of cool. We had decent crowds for the first play, Crimes of the Heart. But getting a nonprofit off the ground, Elizabeth, and getting it woven in and getting people to come, it's a little bit of a challenge. But we have our first season's all mapped out, and we're already looking at our second season. So it's kind of exciting. And really, the whole point of it is that I'll stop in a second here is we wanted to provide more venues for actors and directors and stage managers and people that want a costume. And there's just not enough opportunity for them in the area. There hasn't been a downtown Roanoke theater for many years. So we're hoping to tap into that. People can make it a night, go have a beer and a burger, and come see a play at the Bear and all that. So we're very hopeful that there's a niche for community theater in downtown Roanoke. Kind of cool.
That is very cool. That is very cool. What can I do to help, and where can I buy tickets?
Okay, beartheater.com, just like a bear. And I don't know if it makes a difference, but it's theater, THEATRE.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you just type in Exit Pursued by a Bear on Facebook, our Facebook page will come up so you can like us. So I know tickets for Arsenic and Old Lace will go on sale in early September. And I'm hoping we'd at least double the crowd sizes we had. And we've got 2 plays coming up in the spring. And it's kind of exciting. We're getting more and more buzz, and, getting a business off the ground. And this is a business, even though it's a nonprofit. It's, how that goes. Mm-hmm. It's a whole thing. And there's 7 people on the board. Everyone's bringing something different to the table. We have someone from Community High School on the board because it's sort of a collab. Pretty much everyone, or some of us have been actors. Some of us have directed. We've got a financial guy on the board, which really helps. So everyone's bringing something to the table. So we have board meetings once a month. We throw a lot of ideas around, and it's kind of exciting. And I'm excited that I'm going to be in the second play in Arsenic. I'm going to play a cop in a couple of scenes, a New York cop. Can you believe that?
Are you
So yeah,
qualified for that role?
well, I can do the New York thing. But anyway, beartheater.com, Arsenic and Old Lace, the first and second weekends in October. And I hope people come out to see it because it's going to be fun.
That is very exciting. Well, I'm sorry for that little joke there, but are you from New York?
Yes. I've been down here.
Okay.
I've been down here a long time. My parents had moved down here at one point, and I grew up in New York, lived in Colorado for 8 years, moved back to New York, got involved with a lot of traveling and all that. And then I moved down here because I wanted to sort of get away from the rat race. My parents lived down here at the time, and I just dug in. I've been here almost 30 years, and I like Roanoke. And quite frankly, and I don't have a journalism degree or anything, so but I just learned on the job here. And you really, quite frankly, in a town like Roanoke, you can be a somewhat big fish in a small pond. That goes for a lot of people because everyone knows everybody here. 2 degrees of separation. You can really get woven into the fabric of the area here. And I'm into, like I said, running and theater and writing and radio and stuff and business magazines. So, but in a town like this, if you really want to me, this is a great place if you want to emerge and you're coming right out of school and you got some great ideas and you can find something here. You can just be much more noticed in a place like Roanoke or the New River Valley, much more than you're going to be noticed in a Baltimore or a Philadelphia, or Tampa, coming right out of the box. You can, if you're really good and you're really sharp, you can make whether or not you stay here forever, you can really make strides in Roanoke and really kind of zoom towards the top of the pecking order. I firmly believe in that.
I believe you, and I agree. That's excellent. Okay, well, Gene, I think that I have to say goodbye, so I will let you go, and I think we'll have to have it. I hope we get to have another conversation very soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Hopefully when the video is fixed, but of course, I don't know. I spared people my picture today, but Elizabeth, this has been great. It's been an honor, and yeah, I hope to chat again.
Thank you so much. We will. I hope you have a great day.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Elizabeth in Floyd, Virginia. This has been an episode of Dear Business Coach.